Hello, welcome back to the Network Effect. We appreciate your patience. We're back on with a gentleman that we want to introduce you to, Tim McMurtry. How you doing, my brother?
Blessed and increasing, my friend. How about
Yeah,
yourself?
I'm great. I'm great. We appreciate you supporting us and coming in and working with us on this.
Indeed, the pleasure's all mine.
You know, as a business owner myself, I was certified as well. I have a lawn service, certified as a SBE, certified at the gallery as an MBE and a DBE.
Gotcha.
Um, and one thing that I've learned is it's a lot of red tape that you have to do to be certified, and then once you get certified, it's a lot to go through. So I'm here as a student as well, not just as a host of the show, but I want to learn as well. And we would like for you to just tell us the importance of um, local businesses becoming certified as MBEs and SBEs and the advantages of it, and even the disadvantages of it, and then maybe try to help us navigate through it.
Yeah, because I'm on the other side of that, Tim. First, let me just say here, we have Tim McMurtry. He's the Executive Director of Infrastructure Business Development for the National Association of Minority Contractors here in Wisconsin. So I know we mentioned this at the top of the hour, but we did have some technical difficulties. So just in case you missed it, today we're talking about certifications, federal and local. And so Tim is here really to walk us through or answer any questions we may have in regards to certifying our businesses. Fredrick, as he just mentioned, he's already certified, but I'm actually looking into putting one of my businesses through the certification process. So we're in two different areas of certification there. So thank you for joining us today, Tim. But as you were saying, Fredrick, maybe you can just share some advantages and disadvantages with us as well.
Sure thing. Pleasure's all mine. Thank you all for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and honored to be among such distinguished figures in our city. You know, I'm amped up. I'm amped up. The certification process, I would encourage all minority businesses to get a certification, because what you really want to do is help position your business to be in front of as many eyes as possible. And there's like a varied alphabet soup, so to speak, with the certifications. You got the DBE, the MBE. DBE is Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. MBE is Minority Business Enterprise. And you have different certifying bodies. And usually those certifying bodies are bodies of government. On the federal level, there is the federal government and that federal certification. But just because you have a federal certification does not necessarily mean that it's applicable to statewide certifications. And so, first step is, okay, whatever your business is, which of these certifications makes the most sense for me? Put me in the wheelhouse of my best client prospects, and that's step number one. So you have the federal level, you got a state level, you have a county level in Milwaukee, and you have a city level, all different certifications. Yeah. You can go to sam.gov for the federal piece. The state one is administered. There's two different ones. The DBE is administered by our Wisconsin Department of Transportation, and our MBE certification is administered by the Wisconsin Department of Administration. And so the distinction between the two, the DOT certification primarily works with horizontal construction, roads, bridges, etc.
Transportation,
Correct. And the MBE from the Department of Administration is any kind of business you got. Hair salon, construction, pipe fitting, restaurant, what have you. If you are a minority, 51% ownership of that particular business, you qualify. There are other qualifications. I can't go through them, in great detail right here, but that is the main thing. Two things I will say. Shameless plug for NAMAC. NAMAC is the National Association of Minority Contractors. Wisconsin is the oldest and largest minority-owned construction industry trade association in the United States.
Wow.
Founded in 1969 in Oakland, California. And it was founded because as recently as 1968, the SBA did not give loans or business assistance to minority contractors. So folks said, well, hey, we need some bread too. So NAMAC, was formed. And Wisconsin is one of about 25 different chapters that we have across the country. Back to the certification piece. When you are in business, you're in business to make money. So whether or not you have a certification, if you're making money, you're still good. What a certification does is it puts you on a specialized list for individuals and businesses that do work with a particular branch of government.
Okay.
So folks that you might not have otherwise come across in your daily, walk,
Yes.
they get visibility of you. And when you have a client prospect, you don't care who it is.
Exactly.
I don't
That's money.
care how you get it.
Doing business.
Exactly. And so
Now, if I may ask a
Oh, go
question,
ahead.
so with all these certifications, is this something that they implement like how, they're implementing DEI, right?
Mhm.
So is it federally, on the federal aspect, on state aspect, is that something that they have to do to get, the minority businesses a certain percentage? Is that
That's
That's a
kind
great
of the
question.
same?
That's a good question.
Great question. Yeah, the whole genesis of having the programs is that they are designed in spirit to redress the historical racial discrimination, disenfranchisement that ethnic minorities and women, but primarily ethnic minorities first, black people in particular,
Yes, Lord.
faced in this country. So as a way to redress that without or short of giving reparations or short of going back in history and undoing everything that was done, I said, tell you what, because you guys have been shut out of opportunities, we are going to ensure as best we can that opportunities are still there for you. So programs that receive federal dollars usually have a participation amount tied to them.
Now, with that said,
Mm-hmm.
right, so two questions.
Mhm.
The percentage,
Yeah.
is that standard? And is that something with the new administration, is that something that they're trying to weed out?
Go there.
Yeah, these are you batting 1,000 with the question.
Not administration.
Right.
That's
So
what-
there is a formula that the municipality or certifying agency will utilize to determine what the percentage is.
Okay.
That comes with, what the total dollar amount is. Another factor that's often overlooked is how many minority businesses does this particular industry have? So if it ain't none of y'all that do this, we ain't gonna set no percentage because let's say elevators, for example.
Right.
You don't have a lot of minority elevator companies. So if you got a building or a project that wants to have some participation on it, the elevator portion of it might not be part of the project that has any sort of participation goals because there's scant numbers of minority contractors in that particular field or sector anyway.
Right.
So with that combination, that matrix, they come up with a number. Typically is anywhere between 5% and up to 20% participation, depending upon what it is. As far as this current administration, we've had some overtures that, hey, if Donald Trump was able to get into office again, there would be some things that would be done, i.e. Project 2025, that would come down the pike. And one of those things is the attempted dismantling of DEI programming and policies. Now that started before he got reelected. There was been a move afoot right around shortly after the George Floyd murder in 2020. There were a number of companies across sectors that said, you know what? This racial animus that we've had in our country is really out of order. We can't run and hide no more. Some of the stuff we thought was a figment of our imagination, despite what the people were telling us, if you're not of that hue. But we saw it all. Everybody was trapped in the crib. You know what I'm saying? You can't unsee this.
Right.
And so what they did was a knee-jerk reaction with a lot of the pledges. Hey, I'm going to pledge $20 million to help minority businesses. I'm going to pledge, on more diverse workforce, etc. What that did was that caused some sort of backlash from folks who lost out on something. For example, if I have a company, I have 500 employees, and I have a diversity program that's going to guarantee I get 3 people that's a person of color, you might have a person that is not a person of color, a white person saying, well, hey man, that dude, he got the job with one of those 3, he took my job. Hold on, player. It was 497 other people, you know what I'm saying, that got a gig, they took your job, you know what I'm saying? So there never was overabundance of advantage that ethnic minorities have been able to score despite the programs.
Yes.
For example, at the federal level, I think minorities make up maybe 3% currently of federal contracting, and federal contracting is in the
And
trillions
they're mad about
of
that.
dollars. Yeah, 3%. Darn it, give me the rest. It's like, hold on, dog.
Yeah.
It's diabolical
It really is.
that you can say, hey, man, there's enough for all of us to eat, but you want the whole pie? You want the whole thing? Not to mention that as far as black people are concerned, we built this country.
Yes, Lord.
People talk about low wages. What about no wages? For hundreds of years. So if anything, you owe me some change. You know what I'm saying? So give me my right. So this current administration, what he's done is really just put some fan to the flame of it. A lot of the executive orders that have been done have been designed to strip away any low-hanging fruit, anything that isn't ironclad by Congress. But what we need, though, is the fact that we are in a constitutional republic here. It's not a monarchy, which means that our Constitution governs. We got 3 branches of government. We got the executive branch, the president. We got the legislative branch, which is Congress, and then we have the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court. And what they all have to do is get really, quite frankly, some political stones and say, "Hey, bro, you pushing too far. You've over, you know what I'm saying? You're overreaching." And thankfully, they are waking up. There are a lot of federal judges that are now saying, "Hey, man, you can't do that. Things that you put in place by way of executive order, you weren't able to do that. So put that back." And so I think over the next year or so, we'll see a lot of stuff, kind of playing out. But there is definitely an assault on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we have to be very, very vigilant and vocal in us talking about how beneficial it is. This ain't a charity case. This is business. And diversity is good business. I think there was an outfit, I forget, it was a reputable organization that put out a couple years ago saying, I think the statistics the statistic that really stood out to me was that due to racism and unfair, unequitable business practices, it's cost America something like $16 trillion. So doing business with ethnic minorities is not just the right thing to do. It's also good business.
Economically as well.
It's good business.
Yeah, but that's why we're having this conversation as well, Tim. I just want to thank you for joining us. I know it was last minute, so the information you're sharing is just so plentiful that we can go on forever with this. But one of the things that we want to just make sure we touch on is how to get things in order right now. As you mentioned, we know we have different administration in place right now. We may be under attack today, or maybe for the next maybe 7 to 8 years if it's left up to to some people. What do you think, in addition to the certification, is how important is that we get our ducks in a row as of now?
I think it's a clarion call for us getting our ducks in a row. And what I mean by that is that sometimes my wife had another shameless plug. She's the president and founder of McMurtry Financial Services. She works with businesses getting their finance and accounting together. And sometimes we have conversations, and she'll talk all the accounting jargon, accrual accounting, or cash-based accounting. I'm like, well, hey, most folks that are doing what they do, they are best in class at that service and or product. They just say, hey, this is what I provide, this is how much it costs, and this is how much money I made. And so what you have to take into account is all the back office, the balance sheets, all that kind of, they don't care nothing about that. They just want to be able to do this thing. So give some grace. That being said, a lot of our businesses don't have all of our back office ducks in a row. And because in my head, I had 180 units. I had them at XYZ. You need to get the stuff documented, not just for efficiency for your business, but when you are expanding into newer clients, newer business opportunities, one of the unspoken barometers that people use to verify in their own mind whether you are a legit business or not is, how are your back office items? If I ask you for your last year's receipts, your revenues, your your financials. Can you get them to me?
Yeah.
Or they got Popeye's chicken grease all on them and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? That stuff.
Coffee, maybe
you know what I'm
coffee.
saying?
Maybe some
Coffee,
coffee.
you know, something.
Yeah.
Those kind of, and for us, we
Mhm.
it's a when we deal with people, we kind of go with the feel.
Mhm.
You seem like you a cool person, or you seem like a hook. You know what I'm saying? And we can do some of that other stuff. You know, when we get to it, but I won't hold that against you if you ain't got just personally. I won't hold that against you. However, when we're doing business, not just with us, but with others, there are certain barometers that they use to evaluate us. And so we have to have all those kinds of things in a row. Relative to certification, if they, go nuclear on all, are we getting rid of all of the programs, that doesn't stop us from still doing business. We built a country with no wages. So we're superheroes. We'll just make the adjustment. But the main thing is that, hey, I am a bona fide business owner. I'm best in class. And if there are some administrative best practices, let me go ahead and tighten those things up. And the certification process is one of the ways that helps you do that, because you got to gather some information, 3 years of your past tax returns, other kind of documents, that while you're doing that, it can give you a signal of, you know what? I was a little slouchy in some areas. Let me tighten this on up. And once you get all of your documentation ready for certification, you actually are a better business owner now, because you got all the ducks in a row because you were forced to. And that experience of gathering gives you an opportunity of personal research. You know your stuff better, stuff you might not have looked at in years. You kind of got to bring it back to the forefront. So it has kind of a double advantage.
And I can concur to that. I can second that, because as you mentioned, I've been in business for over 15 years, and some of the things going through the process now, actually the checklist that they provide, the certification checklist. And as I mentioned, we're going to put some of these links and information on our Facebook page here, as well as our website. But actually, the actual checklist, as you just mentioned, make sure you have different balance sheets and your 3 years taxes. So it does sort of make sure that you do have some of these things in place.
Exactly. So it helps to refine you as a business owner. And as you are putting those things together, your own vision, because you started the business because you had a vision, you had some gumption, you had ambition. That can be even refueled through that process as well. It's like, you know what? I am a for real business owner. Let me, okay.
So can you let us know and our audience know the different certifications in the meetings from I know you said state, you said city, state, county, and federal. So explain that to the audience, the ones, and then what the advantages of those.
Yeah, but this guy right here is a bona fide interviewer.
We're in business over 40 years. It's a legitimate business here.
For real. Okay. So I'll start with the federal level. The federal level, the federal government is the biggest purveyor or purchaser of goods and services in the world. Bigger than Walmart, bigger than Amazon. So they have a wide range of things. You get the federal certification, go through sam.gov. You get the federal certification, and you can bid on things ranging from toilets for the military, pens, tissue, just everything that you can think of that you can purchase, you can get it through the federal government. So the advantage there is you have the widest range of possible business opportunities, products and or services with the federal government, because they are the biggest customer of goods and services in the world, number one. The other thing is that you can have larger contracts too. You can get a contract, let's say, to sell pens to them, if you can find a pen manufacturer, and that could be a $1 million contract or a $250,000 contract, pretty sizable because of just the heft of the federal government. So that's just one. Matter of fact, when I left Miller Communications, shout out to Miller Communications, a former public relations firm that I left, and I started Tim McMurtry International, which is my own communications business consultancy as well. I was talking to a contact at Harley Davidson. their general counsel actually, and let them know, hey, I'm not at Miller anymore. I know you're a client of theirs. I'm not trying to poach you. I just want to let you know that I'm out here now. And the first question he asked me was, hey man, did you get your certification through the SAM piece yet? Because what we as a business do when we work with businesses that are certified through the federal government, we get a credit for that. So it's win-win for the minority. Yeah, that's another
That helps.
reason why you want to get the certification, because those that are in part of the certification program, they get credit for that. So that's the federal
Doing
level.
business with you. Okay,
Correct,
that's nice.
correct.
Okay. Oh.
At the state level, you have, like I said before, the DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and then you have Minority Business Enterprise. The governing body that issues or does the certification for the MBE is the Wisconsin Department of Administration.
Okay.
And that also is maybe a microcosm or smaller version of what the federal government is. They have a wide expanse of goods and services. They also currently have a goal that 5% of the entirety of the state's purchases will be done with minority businesses.
Oh, wow, has this been in place for some time?
It's been, it's in, and I, unfortunately, I'll be remiss if I didn't mention this, there is a conglomerate of anti-diversity outfits that are now trying to challenge that particular program. They recently wrote a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi asking her office, the Department of Justice, to do an investigation into Wisconsin. This letter was dated February of 2025.
Recent.
So it's
After the election.
hot off the presses, and I believe that they are now having conversations with their general counsel on how best to mitigate this.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And we at NAMAC also, both NAMAC local and NAMAC national, are putting together, some tactical strategies on how we can push back against it as well, because we want to continue to advocate for the economic equality for our communities. And so that's just the latest in the, salvos being launched against it.
Now, if I may, you gave an acronym for the state, MBE, but when you spoke about the federal, what is that called? Is that an acronym or?
The SAM piece, it's acronym as well. It's escaping me. It might be in my notes over there,
Okay.
but it's just
We'll
the
get that
federal
in the notes.
supply
We'll
diversity.
put it in the comments.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the comments.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And so the state has the MBE program as well as the DBE. And again, the DBE is administered. There's a unified certification program group made up of the state's DOT, Madison, City of Madison, Dane County, and Milwaukee County.
Okay, so that's good. So it's one certification you're saying that you can go through that will sort of get you certified in those four different
Yeah.
bodies. Okay.
Either one of those can get you the DBE, and
Okay.
whichever one you certify with, because they have this, reciprocity agreement, your DBE certification is good in any one of those.
That's a good point. No, that's a good point. It seems like it's so much because it seems like it'd be a little overwhelming. Honestly, you send all these different levels and different certifications. So that's good to know that there is one certification that you can go or just do one avenue, if I were to say, and it'll help you certification in all different avenues.
Yeah, and I also, to that point, the offices and the respective personnel in those offices, they typically are really, really helpful as well.
Okay.
They really want the DBEs to have as smooth sailing as possible.
Right.
But it is some, red tape. There are some processes that you have to have, and just quite frankly, that can be a little worrisome. Just earlier today, I was at the DMV because we have this thing, you have to have a real ID now.
Yes.
Federal government to fly anywhere as of May 7th, you gotta have this.
Wednesday, huh?
Yeah.
Wednesday.
And so I went, because I got a couple trips coming up next month, and so I said, let me go ahead and get this knocked out. But when you go in there, if you didn't know, you just say, I'm here, they call you up, all right, next in line, how can I help you? Hey, I'm here for my real ID. Well, do you have, your birth certificate or a passport?
Right,
You got
right.
2 forms of mail that have your address on there.
Oh, you gotta do now just to get the updated ID, with your old ID. That's not good enough.
No,
Okay.
no, and who knew that?
I didn't.
Y'all didn't tell that, when you get the new ID, So put all that information in there. I only bring that up is because when you have to do quote unquote extra steps, it can be a little frustrating. If you already were coming, in between a project that you're working on, you're leaving work on your lunch break or whatever, you ain't got a lot of time to be going back and forth or whatever. Let me know what I need up front so I can square that away and come to you with all of that, having all my, ducks in a row and everything, checked off. So that's that piece. I just a little diversion, but it's an example of some of the stuff that weeds some of us out. If I gotta
be patient too. You gotta be patient and persistent as well, because it's not for everyone. So if they can't go through that process, because sometimes we gotta just call a spade a spade. If you cannot go through that process, do you really need to be doing business at that level? Also, because at some point we have to stop just holding hands for people that just don't want to do anything or maybe a little lackadaisical.
And I think that part right there is one of the things I would like to leave with your viewers is that whether you have a certification or not, you still have to. You got some hustle here. You still have to go to networking events. You still have to follow up. You still have to, go out to coffee with people. You still have to have this FaceTime. And it could be deferred gratification. You could have a contract with somebody that might not materialize for a year and a half or two. But you met them at the gallery though. And here we are 2 years, you know what I mean? And so if you don't have the stomach for that, we have this romantic viewpoint, I'm gonna go ahead and hang my shingle up, I'm gonna get my business, and it's gonna be that. No, if you got your don't quit your 9 to 5 yet, because if you got a mortgage, that's still gotta get paid, you got student loans, that's still gotta get paid. If you and your spouse, your significant other have developed a certain lifestyle, where y'all like to go out to eat and travel, that ain't free. Right. And so if you ain't got no bread coming in, or at least adequate coming in to cover those costs, you just had a bad day, and it could morph into other things.
Now, speaking of that, is there any agencies or programs in the city of Milwaukee or the state of Milwaukee that will help you navigate through that? Because I spoke with a good friend of ours that's here today, and I've experienced myself. It's hard to navigate. I'm on top of what I'm doing, but it's still hard to navigate. Yeah. So is there outlets where you can get some assistance in navigating?
Yeah. I would say two things. Yes, and proceed with caution. Yes, from the standpoint of there are state sanctioned program like WEDC, Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation is one. WISDOT, Wisconsin Department of Transportation, that's another one. The city of Milwaukee, the Department of City Development, as well as their Office of Equity and Inclusion are three that I'll just name off the bat. The challenge is that you have funding assistance. Usually the funding is, or a lot of times, the funding assistance might not be enough that the business needs. Right. Let's say Tim McMurtry's division, hey, I got some revolving loans or some other grants that you have. Northwest Side CDC is another one that you can check out as well. Okay. Willie Smith is the executive director there. But if your cap at your assistance to businesses is $20,000, $35,000, I might need 170 bands. Right. You know what I'm saying?
They already capped out, so you walk through the door.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. That's where other funders being resourceful can kind of come into play. Now you look at the Greater Milwaukee Foundations of the world, the Beta Philanthropies of the world, the Herb Cole Philanthropies. They have larger pools of money. Okay. Some of it is specialized though too, like they got an education division or whatever, and you have to, see if your business, if it's not directly aligned with what they have designated funding for, how can you craft it in a way that is adjacent to that? Right. And they have their process, you talk to a program officer, they review your stuff, shuffle it back up to their board. For their board meeting, they make the decision on whether or not to fund this or that. But they also have some things, they have discretionary funds, right? Which means that up to a certain amount, the program officer at their own discretion can just, hey, I like you, here you go. And you can get that too. But you gotta be working.
Diligent.
Diligent. You gotta
just can't be sitting back on your thumb expecting the fall to fry. That's for sure.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
So now, like you addressed earlier, is MBE, Minority Business Enterprise,
Mm-hmm.
DBE, Diverse Business
Disadvantaged
Enterprise,
business enterprise.
Disadvantaged,
Mhm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
WBE,
Young women.
Women,
Yeah.
okay, and continue
The,
on.
and the other one was SBE, Small Business
Business
Enterprises,
Enterprises,
and
okay.
that's where the city of Milwaukee comes in, and they have different criteria for that too. You have to show disadvantage in a couple of different areas. One, your ethnicity has historically, been, disenfranchised. Your location of your business is in a zone, a renewal zone that they're looking to uplift folks in that particular area. Social status, similar to that first one that we talked about, and then I think the last one is education,
Okay.
and they have those metrics. So when you put your application together, you have to have 3 of those 4 that you say, hey, I qualify for this, here's why, and if they say, hey, I checked out your application, I ain't really feeling that, you have an opportunity to give redress to that as well.
Right.
Talking to them, hey, this is why that is applicable to this particular section or not. But that again is on you. Closed mouths don't get fed.
Exactly.
Literally and figuratively.
Right.
So you have to be an advocate for yourself. But if you are in business and you're trying to get that coin, it should be part and parcel of you speaking up for yourself as you are in business.
Yeah. It's I tell you, me being certified as all 3 of those, and as I said, like I mentioned before, speaking with other people, I think the getting certified is not the hard aspect, but learning how to understand e-notify, learning how to understand these emails, learning how to understand that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned before.
Yeah. What I would recommend to that point, when you go through a certification process, I recommend that people befriend, for lack of a better word, befriend somebody on the inside of that particular certification. Because all those kinds of questions, people are, trying to do the right thing. They'll go ahead and just share with you, what the basic information is. Not that they're not that they're trying to keep information from you,
Right.
but you don't know what you don't know. You know what I'm saying? So, and they don't know what you don't know either. And so when you come to a stumbling block, hey, let me call Miss Clarice, let me call Frank. Hey man, I'm on page 2, paragraph G.
Right.
What this mean? Those kind of things.
Right.
DOT actually had a support services program where they work with coaches. I'm one of the coaches that work with. We got a couple of, at least one, Tech Trojan. Alum, that's Tiffany Rooker and Jeremy out about transportation, you know what I'm saying, one of my clients, great people, salt of the earth people, class acts. I mean, so DOT tries to give those wraparound services so that as the DBEs are going through the process, they have support in trying to take their business to the next level.
We gotta bring you back here, Tim. It's so much. So we would be sitting here in the sun before that. I know you have other, things to do this evening. So I just want to thank you for coming here too. But what we want to do is make sure that everyone in the audience knows that we are going to share for sure these links. Maybe not this evening, but first thing in the morning. So all of the links here that Tim has shared with us, we're going to share that information. In summary, Tim, I know that you're the executive director of. I know you said okay, good to use those terms. Like what services? Let's say Fredrick already certified. He's a minority contractor. What would he do, or how could he contact you? And what services?
Bro, these jokers here, y'all. They know what they do.
How could he contact you? Just really, like what assistance could you offer?
Yeah, we primarily help business. Well, phone number 414-305-7360. Email address timothy@namcwi.org.
And that's your personal number you just gave.
Yeah.
Now, this is a big deal, everybody. Like, Mindful Monday, it's a network effect. Make sure y'all say that. He just gave you, this is the executive director of business infrastructure, and he just gave you his personal telephone number. So this is gold. What's that number again, Tim? Where's my phone? I got it.
We're really about that life.
Yes.
Really for the culture and for the community. You know what I'm saying? And so what we do is we act as a concierge for contractors in the construction industry. That's the horizontal construction, roads, bridges, vertical construction, that's the built environment, both residential and commercial, and utilities, both above ground and subterranean. And so when a person calls us, hey, what we try to do is, one, help them get visibility about projects that are coming down the pipe that what they do is within the scope of work.
Okay, industry specific.
Exactly.
Okay.
We also help them build relationships. Hey, I want to get in contact with this person or that person. Do you have a contact with this? Yep.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. And if they have other kind of one-off things, hey, I need some assistance with surety bonding or business finances, those sorts of things. If we can't, do that directly for them, we bring in third parties that we are in relationship with.
So that's Bacchus Insurance Group. I just surety. Surety
That's okay.
Insurance Group. 414-716. Don't play. We got you on all angles here.
Yes, indeed.
So this is family. It's a movement.
Yeah. So that's really what we do. And again, founded in 1969, have a national headquarters office in Washington, D.C. And so whatever goes on in the nation, we kind of get wind of that, seeing how that affects the nation in general and how it impacts Wisconsin in particular. So a lot of this that we have going on right now, this back and forth, this disruption to the diverse landscape is something that's kind of new to all of us in this iteration and the speed at which is coming. But we're thankful that there's some folks that's putting their dukes up after they kind of got, shocked.
They'll knock us down, baby.
And so
We've been here before.
I'll share one other thing, too. There was a guy that, the Minority Business Development Administration, which was a federal division that has just recently been defunded through executive order, and staff across the country have been, laid off. One of the guys that was a former director of it, he's a hedge fund manager by trade or brother. He was sharing with us back in December. We were talking, myself and our board president, Ugo Wallarocha. Shout out, Ugo.
Hey, Ugo.
We were talking with him, and he was saying that, hey, although there are some, attacks on DEI, and some of these programs are kind of in jeopardy, some, probably will survive, but, continue to stay vigilant. He said, don't get stuck being disappointed that you might not get a $500,000 grant or a participation piece. What you really ought to be focused in on is going after $50 million contracts.
Right.
Yeah.
He said so. Focus on bigger things.
Correct. So what we have to do is also, I think, your first guest, Brother John, was talking about, things beginning to mind. So our mindset, we have to have mental dexterity on however you want to play it. I can go this way, I can go that way. You kind of got to be ambidextrous using the right hand.
Pivot. That's our word. Pivot. Pivot. I got that for out and about Tiffany. That's a pretty face. That's Tiffany's word she shared with us last year.
Yeah. So we have to elevate our mindset. You know what? Maybe I was fishing in too shallow of water. I might need to, launch out into the deep.
Right.
But all those other things that we talked about, the tenacity, the diligence, the persistence, all of that really comes into play now. And the relationship building is very, very important, because you can have a direct connection with somebody, but you don't know who people know.
Exactly.
And you say, well, hey, man, I don't really do that, but my guy, you know what I'm saying? Irv, this. So we have this connective tissue that we have to be ever mindful of, that we're kind of swimming in that kind of pool, that we always have opportunity. We just might have to from a little bit different, because the picture looks different when you're looking from inside the frame as opposed to looking at the frame.
That's such a big deal too,
Yeah.
Tim. You know, that's a perfect way to sum this up and to, to end this interview here, honestly. We first of all, like we mentioned, want to thank you for coming. But as Tim just said, that's what Mindful Mondays is here for. We're here for sharing resources, referring business to one another. We would love to have Tim come back too. You've heard from John, you've also heard from Tim. We're going to share some of the things they have going on. But I think the root of what we spoke about today was networking, rubbing shoulders, getting to know people. And we're doing our very first in-person event next month on June 2nd. It's going to be right here at the gallery from 5:30 to 7:30. We're bringing tasting. We're going to have some business owners. Oh, so my people in the audience are happy about that. Yeah, we're bringing back our wine tasting, but we're actually going to have food too now this year too. So we have a nice sponsor who's going to help us out with some food. But we want you to join us on June 2nd. If not, be sure just to share this information here that Tim has shared, as well as John has shared with you all. And as I mentioned before, if you are looking for a surety bond or any other type of insurance, I am the president, founder, owner of Bacchus Insurance Group. Give me a call too at 414-408-8357. We're here at the beautiful gallery, Greenwood Park at 4233 West Fond du Lac Avenue. But don't leave yet because we have another artist coming on. She's so talented. She's also been helping us with some of our work here for our TikTok page. So you cannot wait to have the information she's going to share with you. Her name is Twig Stewart, and we're going to share that. But please stay tuned with us. We thank you again, Tim, for coming. You have to come back and probably bring that beautiful wife of yours at the wine tasting on June 2nd. We would love to meet her as well.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate
Thanks
you.
for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Appreciate you, my
All
brother.
right.
Yes,
Real
indeed.
pleasure.
And thank you all so much. We'll be right back with Twigs.